What's going on, guys? My name's Lenny, and today I'm showing you how I installed windows onto my cargo trailer. If you haven't been following along, I'm converting this 7x14 enclosed cargo trailer into a tiny house on wheels, and it's going great so far. What I've shown you in the previous videos was purchasing and demolishing and then fixing up the interior. So kind of just getting the bones ready to build. And then I did solar panels and skylights on the roof and my fan. So in this video, we're talking windows. What is up, YouTube? So another day working on my wonderful trailer. Today is a big day. We're doing windows. Windows in the trailer. Let me run you through how I'm planning to do this. We'll see how it goes. So, you can see I got my windows here, and one of the issues with cargo trailers here is that they've got these vertical studs or beams that are structural. So you got two options if you're putting windows in a cargo trailer like this. Option one is you get really narrow windows. These are 16 on center. So that wasn't going to work for me. I don't want nice big windows, so we're going to have to cut these beams. So that's where my beautiful pile of aluminum extrusion comes in. It showed up just the other day. I'm basically going to build frames out of that aluminum extrusion, and I'm going to chop these studs. And so we're basically going to have two verticals similar to this that connect the top and bottom. Then we're going to have two horizontals that go the length of the window on the top and bottom of the window. And we're gonna fucking chop some studs, build a nice square frame for the window, then put it in. So let's see how it goes. To frame my windows, I've decided to use the 80/20 aluminum extrusion bars. These are great. If you've never used 80/20 before, these are just extruded aluminum square bars with T-slots in each of the sides. So you can slide nuts in and screw them together. And they're super versatile. You can make all sorts of different stuff. And actually, I've decided to build all of my furniture in the van out of this 80/20 stuff. So that's why I have so much here. This is actually about half of what I plan to use for the whole van build. I kind of just purchased a bunch, and I'm using it for the window framing and the wall structure, and then also for all my furniture, my bed, couch, kitchen, cabinets, closets, all of that. I'll start by showing you how I installed these vertical beams. These are basically support beams that are going to support the horizontal beams that go above and below the window. And I installed them straight into the bottom rail and top rail of the trailer structure, with only one bolt each, so hopefully that's enough. On the top, I just used some spacers to get the rails contacting the aluminum sheet metal. In the bottom, I was just able to use one of my L brackets. So how did I figure out where to put my windows? Well, I designed my whole interior layout of my trailer in CAD. I have spent many hours working on it, and I've came up with a good layout, and I've done a full 3D model of the inside of this trailer. So I basically started with where all my furniture and, the big things, bed, kitchen, whatever, desk, where all those need to be. And once I had a good layout set, I looked at my wall space and I said, okay, here's where I have room for a window, here's where I have room for a window. And then I started shopping for windows, and that's how I decided what size windows to buy and where to put them. I had a specific space available, and so I bought a window that would fit there. And now I'm going to install it in those locations. So once I had my vertical beams all set up, it was time to cut some steel. I just sawed through this with an angle grinder, so enjoy some pretty sparks.
All right, let's cut the shit.
safety glasses under the face shield were a bit overkill. They were fogging up, so I had to do without those. Now it's time to build the frame. So this is my couch window. It fits over top of my couch and underneath my overhead cabinets. So that's why it's so long and skinny. Next up is framing the kitchen window. So for this window, I bought a 30-inch wide by 22 tall window. And that was really the best option for getting a nice big kitchen window that fit with only having to cut one stud. And I'm also working around cabinets and all sorts of stuff that I need to put on my walls here. So I ended up just notching the two studs on either side, and it worked out relatively well, or so I thought. Now that I have my first two frames constructed, it's time to cut some sheet metal. So step one was to figure out where I was going to cut. So I just drilled out the beginning and end of each of the corner radiuses. And then I went outside and connected the dots with a nice straight edge, drew my line for the jigsaw, and I was easily able to start the jigsaw in these holes. And turns out the actual act of cutting the massive hole in the side of the trailer was one of the easiest parts of this whole process. What was significantly less easy than that was getting the window to actually fit correctly inside the massive hole. So here you can see me just trimming up the edges a bit, and I figured out a clever way to get the window to not fall out when I let go of it by just leaning my ladder against it before it's fastened. All right, welcome to another day working on the trailer. We got a window to install. Let's go. So not sure how far I got in the time lapse the other day, but I ran into a bit of an issue. Let me show you this window over here. These RV windows, they have like a thickness, a certain wall thickness that's needed to clamp them onto your wall. It's like this thickness right here. For this particular window, it is 1.5 to 1 3/4 inches. Coming over here to my frame that I built, beautiful 80/20 frame. We got 1 inch by 1 inch extrusion, so that's not thick enough. So I'm having to make a nice new frame. So I got 3/4 inch plywood that I'm going to put on top of this. I found this piece that's like 1 and a something. That just is going to screw in there, and then I got another piece over here, and then I need another piece on top of that. So this one gets it flush with the steel beam here, and then I'm going to need a 1/2 inch on top of that. So yes, doing extra work to get this window installed. We're going to get a nice frame in here, and then the window might go in at that point. We'll see. So over to time lapse. So I just drilled these pieces of plywood right in here. Nothing crazy here, but I did notice something kind of visually striking as I was working here on this particular day. And as you'll notice, I'm looking out this window, And the whole interior of my trailer is all gray and black. And the window just perfectly framed this wall of green plant life. And then I turned around and looked behind me, and there was a perfectly framed wall of red. And lo and behold, I look up, and there's a perfectly framed wall of blue. So I just thought that was pretty neat. All right, what is up? I have been struggling with these windows. I have no idea how to install RV windows. I have literally no idea. Never done this before. Figure it out. One thing I'm learning. So these screws go into this little gap in the edge here. They're just supposed to be sheet metal screws, but they're shipped with wood screws, of course. So they can't drill through the back because they don't have a self-tapping head on them. So I think I have to pre-drill them all. So that's what I'm doing. And the other thing I've found is that the alignment on these pieces of trim is really tricky. If you put a screw in the wrong place, then all the other holes are messed up. It's not like the screws are just going into holes. They're going into this slot, but then they stay in place. So I've made some mistakes. There's like, I don't know, at least a dozen, 20 screws here, and I'll probably have to not use a few of them, but that's fine. There's plenty. So I'm going to attempt to drill these. All right, here are the screws it came with. Let's see if I can make this work. It's annoying because you got to drill and screw like alternating, so I got to keep swapping it out because the alignment gets better with the more screws you have in. So I'm going to drill all the holes until I have some screws in. So I've already kind of messed it up, so let's see if... Okay, now that I got all these holes drilled and the trim piece test fit, let's move over to the window opening and see if we can get this thing installed. And just like that, we have a window installed. But am I done yet? So here's a fun little problem I had. I got the cutout for the window. Did a nice job, made these nice radiuses here, but I made the cut too sharp, so there's a gap. So now I gotta patch them right on here. This one looked okay. This one was a little bit tight, and then this one looked okay, I think. Pretty obnoxious. I really wish I hadn't done that. All right, step one, make a cardboard cutout of the piece I need. See. Yeah, it just goes like that. Yeah, just like that. Alright, CAD design done. Time to do the laser cutting. By laser cutting, I mean naturally So, I don't know if you can see this, 'cause it's bright shit out here. But just basically need to just too big. Perfect size. Nailed it. Just need to tape that shit on there. Tape my other one on there. Let's go. I think the one on top is more important because that's the direction that water falls. I'm gonna use the better one on top, which is the second one. I mean, second one always better. This flex tape. Never used this shit before. Seems like it's just rubber tape. I don't know if this backing is usually this hard to get off, or if it's just that it's 90 degrees and sunny out and everything is just extra sticky. Flex tape. This one came out pretty easy. Or I'm just getting better at it. Next step, window. Pros do it. That side looks good. That should be okay. That's suspicious and not great. Not a lot of ceiling action going on in this corner. Probably should have done all four corners with extra. Solution? And I'm finally ready to get these screws in. Wow, that was a process. So these last two pieces of 80/20 are just to mount the bed. I'm actually not doing a window over here, but I am doing a window on the opposite wall behind me. And that is going to come in a different video because we're out of time. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.